All hell is breaking out in Iran. There are massive demonstrations in the street, hundreds of thousands of people in every Iranian city, major demonstrations. People have been killed, and the regime is really facing the most serious challenge it's had in a decade. But this time, the Trump administration is loudly trumpeting, pardon the pun, the idea of regime change and the sanctions. The sanctions against Iran, which were suspended by the ridiculous deal the United States signed, half of them snapped back into place today, the rest on November 4th. The ones for today deal with dollar transactions, many of the banks, many of the industries, the auto industry in Iran, and the ones on November 4th are total sanctions that deal with any trade, any ability to operate a bank or a financial institution, or any dealing in Iranian currency. And while they're imposed only by the United States, you know their impact now is global, because any company that doesn't obey them can't do any business in the United States. Already the rial, the Iranian currency, has fallen to below 50,000 to the dollar. In fact, in some cases, some reports are 100,000 to the dollar. And this is sparking riots all over the country. Renault, the French automaker, which was one of the first in line to get back into Iran in 2013 when this phony nuclear deal was passed, has already announced that it's withdrawing from Iran. It's pulling its facilities out of Iran and looking elsewhere in Africa for investments. And it was the head of Renault, Carlos Ghosn, who said back when these sanctions were imposed, when the market reopens, the fact of having stayed will certainly give us an advantage. But even with that kind of mindset, they're leaving now. And in addition, the French automaker group PSA, Total, the huge oil company, and the reinsurer SCOR SE have all pulled out of Iran. So the Trump sanctions are really beginning to cut, and the possibility of regime change in Iran certainly can't be discounted right now. Now, this morning, before I did this video, I sat there and I scoured through the New York Times to see any reference, actually I did it last night, any reference to Iran demonstrations, turmoil, and all that. Didn't find any. The Washington Post had an article, but it was largely about sanctions, and it's only the Wall Street Journal that really put it where it is and talked about the issue in stark terms. So the mainstream media, this is a non-happening, but it's happening, and it's another indication of the enormous impact of the sanctions that Trump is levying against both South Korea and Iran. But Iran, having a globally integrated economy, is suffering more. On November 4th, the sanctions come against the Iranian oil industry, which should hit the country like a shockwave. And that's what brought them to the negotiating table in the first place. And now there's no table to go to except for the one where they surrender. Today's video is sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Gold has dropped from about $13.50 an ounce in April to a little over $1,200 an ounce now. But there's a consensus among international economists that it's going to rebound very sharply in the next few weeks or months, probably as high as into the mid-1300s again, the range that it had traded at 3 months ago. That's because the two increases we've had, or may be expecting soon, in interest rates have already been priced in to the price of gold by the market. And with all the focus on credit stress and the amount of debt outstanding in the world, which induced President Trump to speak out about it the other day, makes it very unlikely that the Fed is going to materially increase interest rates more. And IBCB, which is the leading Chinese bank, predicts that gold will go up to the mid-1300s in the next few weeks. They said, or next few months, they said, quote, looking at the next 6 months, we are actually around the bottom of this cycle already. so it's more suited in the long term for investors as a decent level for purchasing for their portfolios. And they should know, because China is the world's leading consumer of gold, the leading purchaser of gold, with Russia a close second. Gold is likely to make a comeback, the investment community says, and that might give you a very good time to get in on the escalator as it begins to move up. So call the Patriot Gold Group at the number on the screen, or go to patriotgoldgroup.com. Thanks for watching.